without post-Freudian archness or the sounding of Wiccan drums, across all its knots and frayings, from prehistory to Duchamp, from the escaped narrative of Frederick Douglass to Hyde's own encounter with Coyote in the American Southwest. In the resultant net of knotted story, he catches us up like fish caught in a cord of stars. My work as a writer and as an inheritor of the human bag of lies has never quite recovered from the shock of my first encounter with Trickster Makes This World, which was only in the end an encounter with everything I already knew and had long possessed. It is the way of confidence men and tricksters to sell you what you already own, but a great writer, in so doing, always finds a way to enrich you by the game. Before I read Trickster, I felt lost among the territories of genre and literary fiction, wanting both to exalt and to entertain readers, to write like Marcel Proust and Robert E. Howard, multiplicans whose product may in fact be William Faulkner. I felt drawn to many paths at once, reeling blindfolded across the map of literature like a man seeking a piñata with a stick. After I read Trickster Makes This World, I was not a bit less lost. I was still, like Trickster and all my fellow humans, trapped among the worlds with, as one of our greatest tricksters once put it, no direction home. But now I knew, and have since never forgotten, that I was born to wander along the borderlands. To err, that is, to wander, is human. And so is the act of making a story out of our purposeless wanderings, as if they mattered, as if they had a beginning, a middle, and an end. They don't, but there is neither joy nor art nor pleasure to be made from saying so. Coyote wouldn't waste his time on a paltry truth like that. Introduction. Every generation occupies itself with interpreting Trickster anew. Paul Radin. We interpret always as transients. Frank Kermode. The first story I have to tell is not exactly true, but it isn't exactly false either. Once during the winter after I got out of college, I was hitchhiking north of Winslow, Arizona. Just after sundown, 3 Navajo men in an old green Chevy picked me up. The driver I remember distinctly, as his hair was as long as mine, and he had lost the top of his right ear. He and his friends had been working a construction site near the New Mexico border and were headed home to Tuba City for the weekend. 2 or 3 times in the fading light, we came upon coyotes crossing the road or slinking along in the nearby brush, and there began a somewhat reverent and somewhat joking discussion of coyotes and their ability to see in the dark, which led in turn to my hearing what I only later understood to be a very old story. Long ago, the driver said, Coyote was going along, and as he came over the brow of a hill, he saw a man taking his eyes out of his head and throwing them up into a cottonwood tree. There they would hang until he cried out, "Eyes, come back!" Then his eyes would return to his head. Coyote wanted very much to learn this trick and begged until the man taught it to him. "But be careful, Coyote," the man said. "Don't do this more than 4 times in one day." "Of course not. Why would I do that?" said Coyote. The others in the car laughed at this, but not the driver. When the man left, Coyote took his eyes out and threw them into the cottonwood tree. He could see for miles, then see over the hills, see where the stream went, see the shape of things. When he had done this 4 times, he thought, "That man's rule is made for his country. I don't think it applies here. This is my country." For a 5th time, he threw his eyes into the tree, and for a 5th time he cried, "Eyes, come back!" But they didn't come back. Poor Coyote stumbled about the grove, bumping into trees and crying. He couldn't think what to do, and lay down to sleep. Before too long, some mice came by, and, thinking Coyote was dead, began to clip his hair to make a nest. Feeling the mice at work, Coyote let his mouth hang open, until he caught one by the tail. "Look up in that tree, Brother Mouse," said Coyote.